Na mô tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Na mô tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Na mô tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namassami. Blessings, everybody. We just celebrated the third anniversary of Bodhipala Monastery, which fell on Australia Day last week. And we're celebrating today as well, which was the day we could all come together. And it is a time to celebrate, because building a Buddhist monastery out of farmland is something to celebrate. Bringing into existence a place for practicing what the Buddha taught is something that doesn't happen every day in every part of the world. Certainly in Australia it's quite rare. It might make you think, what is a Buddhist monastery for? What is this place for that we are creating, bringing into existence? And there are a few different answers to that. And one obvious answer is a place to practice what the Buddha taught. So you may ask again, well, what is that? What did the Buddha teach? And there's different answers to that question. Probably one of the most popular answers is, well, the Buddha taught us how to end suffering. He taught us what suffering is, to understand it, to know it, and then how to end it. And nobody in this world likes suffering or stress, human or animal. So if anyone is suffering, they'll always be wanting to end it. So this is a place dedicated to that purpose, for studying, learning about suffering, what it is, what its cause is, and then how to end it. So then people ask, well, how do you end it? What do you need to do to end your stress and suffering in life? And in the short term there may be, again, different answers to that. It depends on what kind of stress or suffering you're experiencing. If you're thirsty, maybe this means drinking some water. But one answer is we end suffering by letting go of attachment. As the Buddha pointed out, suffering comes from attachment. And what you attach to or cling to is what has to be let go of in order to be free from suffering. So then going back to the original question, what is a monastery for? It's a place for learning about how to let go. But that brings up more doubts, of course, because then people always ask, what do we let go of? What is attachment? What do we let go of? And why do we let go? And if we let go of everything, then what's left? Why build a monastery anyway if you're just going to let go of it? And these are reasonable questions. So the practice of letting go is not necessarily as immediately straightforward or easy to understand as that. Sometimes it is, but we also have to study a bit, learn a bit about what we're attaching to and how to deal with that, cope with that, in order to let go properly, or to let go of the right things. And if you did just let go of everything, then there wouldn't be any point doing anything in life. You could just sit there, and whatever happens, happens. But I think we all know that would probably not lead to much peace, happiness, and probably wouldn't lead to the end of our suffering. So it's almost as if you have to attach to some things first until you're ready to let go. There are many ways of describing this. Like today we were talking about how do you get to Nibbana? Well, you have to attach to the path of practice, all the different things you need to develop until you reach Nibbana. Just like if you need to go up onto the roof of this hall to fix something or clean something, you need a ladder to get up there. When you climb a ladder, how does that work? Well, you grab hold of or attach to the first rung and then you go up to the second rung. But in order to progress up the ladder, you have to keep letting go of the lower rung of the ladder in order to go up high. And that's one way of looking at letting go. Sometimes you have to grab onto something first because it's useful and helpful. And when you're ready, then you let it go and then you can move up higher. So even a monastery, you build a monastery, you could say, well, that's an attachment. Well, yes it is, but it's an attachment that's going to help us to let go. And Buddhism is full of this kind of two-layered way of talking. Ajahn Chah used to say, the monastery on the outside, the place, the buildings, the people, the teachings, the chanting, the meditation techniques, that's all the conventional reality. And then the mind of letting go is the mind that's pointing to or seeing the ultimate reality. Conventional reality we call samuti satcha. It's just the ordinary way of describing life. So even a monastery, we give it a name, we say Bodhipala Monastery. That's the conventional reality of a monastery. There's a piece of land, there's buildings, it's got a name. And you can come here and you can do things. You can meditate, you can learn Dhamma, you can help out, volunteer and so on. But that is all for the higher or ultimate reality of letting go, the mind of letting go of suffering, freedom from suffering, that we call Nibbana. So you need the samuti satcha, the conventional reality, to get to the ultimate reality of letting go, we say transcending things, transcending the world. And just like you need the ladder to get up to the roof, you need every rung of the ladder to do that, to get up to the roof. But you don't need every rung all the time. You step on one and then you let it go, and move up. You get to the roof, you don't need to drag the ladder up onto the roof, normally speaking. You let the ladder go once you're up on the roof. You have the monastery and all the things and activities of the monastery to get up to Nibbana. And throughout our life, this kind of dynamic reality is going on, isn't it? We need the things of the world in order to go beyond the world. By going beyond the world that we end our stress and suffering. But you need to be in the world and understand and experience what is stress and understand where it's coming from in order to go beyond it. So one of the biggest obstacles, problems that Buddhists have when they come to see teachers is they're always saying, oh, I'd really like to let go of everything, I'm so tired and there's so many problems in my life, but I have to work, to earn money, and I have to look after the family maybe, or my parents, or my children. What do I do? How can I practice letting go when I have to do all these things? And it sure is a challenge, no doubt about it, but it's one that is really the heart of life. How to live in the world, earn a living, look after ourselves, look after others, but at the same time practicing letting go. Probably one of the biggest obstacles is you get a job, you go full on for that job. If you want a job, if you need a job, you need to earn money. So you do everything you can to get yourself ready to apply for that job, normally speaking. If you're lucky, your friend gives you a job, but that's rare. Normally, to get a job, you have a CV, you have your history, you need references, you need to have some qualifications. Nowadays, everyone wants experience in that field, you've got to have worked in that field, which is impossible if it's your first job. But never mind, you do your best to prepare yourself, and you're fully committed to getting that job so you can get on. So that commitment brings up an attachment, doesn't it? Oh, I'm going to get this job so I can earn money and get on in life. But as soon as you've got a commitment, it becomes an attachment, you cling, and then you go to work and you start thinking about the job and learning how to do it, and then obstacles and problems come up, difficulties maybe you encounter, and then when you go home, at the end of the day you're tired, and you sit down and your mind is full of all kinds of thoughts about that job. Worries about the pressures, deadlines, tasks you have to do, problems of getting on with other people, cooperating with others, working with others. Sometimes it's customers or bosses, or management, or just the difficulties of the job, getting it done. Our minds are full of it when we go home. That's all what we call attachment. We're attached to the job. You say, well, if I don't attach, then I won't get the job, or if I have the job, I'll lose the job. You know, if I'm not attached to it, I've got to do it. And that's true, you've got to do it. The one thing Ajahn Chah pointed out is that you can do something, but with the attitude of letting go at the very same time. Doing a job of work, but letting go. Like just recently I was travelling in Thailand and talking to Lumpur, the abbot of Ajahn Chah's monastery. And he's 80 years old now, and he's built many monasteries in his life. Worked very hard for religion, teaching, building, managing it, administrating, many things. And he's the leader, spiritual leader of the Ajahn Chah Sangha. And then I heard he's building a new monastery. At 80 years old, he started building a new monastery, about 45 minutes away from Ajahn Chah's monastery. And he showed me pictures of building a new hall, much bigger than the hall we're sitting in. This already took a lot of effort to build. He's building a much bigger one. So I said, well, Paul, you're building a new monastery at the age of 80. How does that go? Isn't it a lot of work? You're getting older, your body's getting weaker. How do you manage? Isn't it a lot of a burden to carry that burden around, the responsibility and the tasks and the effort you have to do, bring up to build a monastery? And he said, well, the monastery is finished every day. Every day I finish my work and it's finished for that day. And that's the attitude he has, the attitude of working but letting go. Every day the job is finished, so he doesn't carry it around as a burden in his mind. Finishes his job, whatever he's been doing, or organising, or often he's just overseeing nowadays, but that's still a job. And he finishes for the day and it's finished. It's truly finished, he says. It's finished in his mind. He's not carrying around the burden. You can only do so much in a day, so much work, so much activity, and then it's finished. You can say, well, what about tomorrow? Well, maybe. Tomorrow you may well carry on, or you may die tonight, who knows? But you don't have to think about it yet, because tomorrow hasn't come. It's still the future. It's just ideas and thoughts about the future. One who practices what the Buddha taught, brings out mindfulness, clear comprehension, somebody who knows how to meditate, every day their work is finished. Every day they go home, or if you're a monk, you go back to your kuti and it's finished. So it's like your mind returns to emptiness, even though you may have been very active and doing a lot. And this is why Ajahn Chah was teaching, coming back to that place of emptiness. This is where you're seeing the ultimate reality of letting go. Even though you may have been temporarily clinging on to a lot of different things through your day. You've been talking to people, going here, going there, working, feeling tired, problems come up, difficulties, misunderstandings, things don't get done. As everyone knows nowadays, there's always excuses. Why did this item not arrive? COVID. Where is that person who didn't come because of COVID? There's always these kind of problems coming up. But at the end of the day, you let go. And your job is done for that day. Literally, if you're well practiced in this, every moment it's finished. The work is finished. Literally every moment of the day. You're putting it down. Just as you pick something up, you put it down again in your mind. This is seeing the transcendent within the ordinary. You know, even in a monastery, there's a lot of very ordinary, mundane activities. Even meditation can be a very ordinary activity, just sitting down, watching your breath, observing the rising, passing away of thoughts, sensations, very ordinary. But by recognizing the transcendent within the ordinary, you can let go. How do you recognize the transcendent? Well, you're aware of the transient, impermanent nature of body and mind and the world around us. When you are mindful of that, then you automatically start letting go. Because what is impermanent, temporary, if you really see that, you don't grab hold of it because you know it's temporary. Like the rung of the ladder, you go up a rung, very few people will cling to the bottom rung. Maybe if you had some fear, and that is one of the obstacles to letting go. In the case of the ladder, you're not afraid of heights. So you may cling to the bottom rung. You don't want to go up higher because of your fear. So that does stop us in many areas of our life and practice, the fear of letting go. But normally speaking, you do just let go of the bottom rung and move up. Normally speaking, you can see the transcendent in the ordinary. You can see the impermanent nature of things. You can see that you can let go of things, just like the rungs of a ladder. This is what you learn. So even somebody was saying, when I was commenting, I was saying, oh, Lumpur, Liam is building another monastery. At 80 years old, he's building another monastery. And they said, well, he's built so many, he's good at building and letting go. You get better at it. You know, letting go is a skill, just like any other skill in life. Maybe if you build your first monastery, you're very careful and attached because you're wanting to do a good job, make it the best you can. You're kind of inexperienced and you don't want to make a mistake. But if you keep doing it over and over again, you become very ordinary and you get good at letting go. Like if you can remember the very first time you ever meditated, whenever that was, maybe you can't remember, but if you could, you probably remember that you tried really hard, you heard the instructions and you tried to be mindful of every breath in, every breath out throughout the period of the meditation. But then as you do it more, you become more relaxed, hopefully. As you become more experienced, you become more relaxed, it's easier. like building monasteries, or doing the job of work that you do, or raising a family, or looking after your parents, or whatever it is in life, driving your car, miles and miles and miles. You get used to it, so then you can relax and you understand what you're doing, but also you start to understand how to let go. So it's a skill. And sometimes people think Buddhism is, where is it taking us? What is the goal of Buddhism? Is it just to have this kind of empty mind? And yes, that can definitely be one aspect of the practice, experiencing an empty mind and knowing the empty mind. So you get a perspective on life, because if you experience the empty mind, the peaceful, still, empty mind, then of course when you start filling your mind up with ideas and thoughts and clinging onto things, you'll see very quickly, because you know what it's like to be empty, then you can see what it's like when you're filling your mind up with all kinds of attachments. So it helps. But it's not like you'll ever have a mind that is perfectly, totally empty all the time, in the sense, never thinking, never feeling, never experiencing anything. Now, one time I went to see Lumpur Tate, who was a contemporary of Ajahn Chah, and considered a very peaceful, enlightened monk. He lived on the banks of the Mekong River on a very beautiful monastery in Makbeng, up on the cliffs. Very kind of suitable spot to practice meditation for an enlightened master to live. And I was talking to him about the practice, and he was very gracious in answering questions, the sort of questions teachers often don't answer, but then because we were monks, I was with a group of monks, and we were asking him. He was very gracious and kind, answered every question. So because he was being so open that day, I just threw in the question, so how does an enlightened master, how does their mind function? How does it work? What happens when they think? Or why do they think? Do they have thoughts? And what is their relationship to thoughts? And he said, oh, it's like this. If they want, they can just dwell in emptiness. What we call vihara Dhamma, like an empty dwelling. Literally like this hall normally hasn't got people in, hasn't got furniture in, it's empty. And emptiness has a kind of peace in its nature, because there's not a lot of clutter, not a lot of things to think about. So an enlightened person can dwell in emptiness. But then things happen in life, and even enlightened beings who've reached Nibbana still teach, they still help people, they still have to eat food and go about their business as long as they're alive. They've got a body to look after, maybe they have a health problem. Maybe they have students who need all kinds of assistance, advice, teachings. Maybe they have to run a monastery. Maybe they have to run many monasteries. Maybe they have to build many monasteries. So the enlightened being still thinks, because thinking is a function of the mind. What we call it the Sankhara Kanda. The Buddha divided a person into 5 khandhas, or groups of experience. Physical side, the body, feelings, memory and perception, thought formation, and then sense consciousness. So thought formations are the thinking mind, where we make decisions, choices, where we make karma. Even the enlightened person still thinks. They still have jobs to do, maybe, responsibilities, people to help, people to teach. So Lumpur Tate said, when there's a need, they think. A thought comes up, oh, what does this person need to be taught? Maybe he gave the example of some guy who's always drinking too much comes to see him. He has to tell him or remind him, don't drink, you're always getting drunk and you get arguments and fights and it's bad for your health and you're wasting your money. Stop drinking. So even the enlightened person has to say that. The person hearing that might not even like it and may argue or criticize the monk and say, oh, why are you telling me to stop drinking? That's my business. Well, the enlightened monk has to say, well, out of compassion for you, I want the best for you. I want you to be peaceful, happy, healthy. So I'm just giving you some advice. Whether they take it or not is their choice. But he can still do that. He can think, he can speak, he can give some advice. Because an arahant, an enlightened monk, still thinks. But when the person's gone home and there's nothing else to do, then the mind can dwell in emptiness for a while, until the next person comes along or the next issue comes up. And then they can think again, if they wish to or need to. So it's like that. It's not like enlightenment is a complete blank, empty state, but there's emptiness of certain things. There's emptiness of this, what we call the attachment to a sense of self, self-identity, view. It's empty of that. But they still think, and can think, and can use thought like a tool. They can use their body like a tool, a vehicle. Ajahn Chah sometimes used to do quite heavy work, helping in the monastery, lifting bricks to make a wall or a building, helping pour concrete, lifting rocks, sweeping leaves. You can use your body to do good things. But it doesn't necessarily have to be an attachment. You're using it to do some useful task that's there. When the task is done, you put your broom down, you put your shovel down, whatever it is, and you move on to something else. You can go to work in your day. When you come home, you leave your work there and do other things. Look after your family, meditate. This is working and letting go, or living and letting go at the same time. And we can do this, but we have to learn how to do it. Otherwise we end up always clinging to the bottom rung of the ladder. And sometimes fear is the problem. Don't want to go higher, or then we might fall. And there's that thought, if I let go, what will I have left? There'll be nothing left, nothing of me left if I let go. So people almost seem to like enjoying their suffering or indulge their suffering. And the stressful thought comes, if I just let go of it, I'll be irresponsible, things won't get done. Maybe they will, maybe they'll get done better if you let go. Because your mind frees up from its worries or fears, anxiety. You have to ask yourself questions sometimes. You might say you have a health issue. You may be ill, you may have some physical problem, and you have pain already, and then you want to know what it is. But until you know the answer, you're worried. But does that worry help you solve the problem? Some wise concern, okay, you need some concern because you've got pain in your leg, pain in your back, pain in your gut, whatever it may be. Some concern is okay, but the worry, the anxiety, does that help cure it? No, it just makes things worse. So say you have a health problem, you know it, and you just have to accept it and let go while you're waiting for treatment, information to how to deal with it. So whether it's your job, your family, paying the bills, relationships with other people, your health. It's not that you don't deal with it and you don't have any thoughts at all about these things, but you're learning to think and let go. This is almost like a sort of two parallel things, processes going on. On the one hand, you're living in the world, working, earning money, doing things, going here, going there. On the other hand, you're training your mind to see through to the deeper truths and to let go of the attachment. And of course, there's many, many ways we let go. Sometimes letting go is just accepting the way things are, not creating excess, unnecessary suffering about it. The anxiety about a health issue that doesn't actually cure it, just makes you feel worse. Or worries about your job, whether you'll keep your job, or whether you'll have a job next year, or when will you get your promotion, whatever. It doesn't really help, does it? So you have to learn to look and see where you can let go and how to let go. And this is where meditation and mindfulness practice comes in. It's giving you the very tool to do it. And mindfulness and clear comprehension is the quality you bring up just to establish, pay attention, establish awareness of what's going on in your mind. So you can bring up mindfulness any time of your day. And maybe it's that just a simple reflection. Oh, my job is done, it's finished for the day, and you put it down. And Lumpur also said, for the enlightened one who's practiced this very well, they can pick a thought up and then they can put it down again. They know how to let go. It's not that they never have any thoughts, but they can let go. There's no compulsion or obsession. They use thought as a skillful tool. So they'll think about a certain issue or problem, solve it, do the best they can, and then they let go. So sometimes they just accept things that have happened that maybe aren't good, but there's nothing we can do about it. Sometimes they consider and they say, oh, there is something we can do, and then they put into action various plans and courses of action that are helpful. But mindfulness facilitates that. Because when you establish mindfulness, you're paying attention, and that allows real understanding, wisdom to grow in that situation, in that moment. It allows wisdom to function. So we say it's like the vehicle that brings along wisdom to that situation. You can see whether you need to hold on, and sometimes you do need to hold on to things. You need to hold on to your job. If that's your way of earning a living, you don't just say, oh, let it go, be done with it. You still have to go to work tomorrow maybe to earn more money. So your wisdom and your mindfulness says, okay, it's a difficult job or tiring or really repetitive, boring job sometimes it can be. But you need the job, so you're not going to let it go. But you let go the worries about the job, the aversion, the reaction to it, the boredom with it, if that's what you're experiencing, the fears about it. That you do let go of. But the job you don't let go of, you still hold on to that, you need it. Or say you're angry with your partner, it doesn't mean to say you have to let go of them and split with them today, forever and ever, necessarily. The idea is, let go of the anger and then with mindfulness and wisdom maybe see how you can repair the relationship, have a better understanding, help each other more, get on together better, if that's what the situation requires. So mindfulness and wisdom work together in every situation. They're the tools of letting go. And the deepest kind of letting go is just knowing, in the end everything is impermanent. So as Ajahn Chah said, it's knowing that the cup is already broken, knowing that the concrete slab you've poured is already cracked, knowing that the building you built will fall down one day. So you don't get too stressed about what the future holds. It doesn't mean to say you don't pour the concrete, build the building, you don't buy a cup or wash your cup. You still do all these things. You look after your cup, you look after your building. But on the deepest level, the profoundest or ultimate truth, or ultimate reality is that one day it will fall apart because everything is impermanent. That's why we like those old monasteries that have been there for hundreds of years, because they're kind of bucking the trend for a while. There'll be a cave monastery that's been there for 100 years because it's caves carved out of the mountain. And there's a certain holiness to it because people have been practicing meditation there for hundreds of years. So there is a certain power to that, a good feel. But even then, one day the mountain will wear away and collapse, or the monastery built out of the solid rocks put together, almost like a castle. Well, it's always impressive if it's been there 100 years or 500 years. But in the end, one day it will collapse. You have to accept that. At least it will outlive you. That's something special in the world. If you sacrifice to build something that will outlive you, you're really doing a service for future generations. It's another kind of letting go, isn't it? You don't say, I'm never going to see the results of my work, so I'm just going to give up. It's like that with planting trees, isn't it? You plant some trees, you probably never see it as a big, grand, mature tree. It doesn't mean to say you can't plant it. You just do your bit and someone else can take over, or maybe it just gets to the point no one needs to look after it. It just becomes a big tree. There's many kinds of letting go. Letting go through acceptance, letting go through action, but then stepping back once the action has been completed. Letting go through understanding. Letting go through forgiveness, in the case of ill will, annoyance. All kinds of letting go. What facilitates it is the practice of mindfulness, and then developing some wise consideration, paying attention, and really getting through to the truth of things. So like you can celebrate an anniversary or a birthday, and some people might say, well, that's just an attachment, it's just another day. Well, it is, yeah, of course, it's just another day, but you can use it skillfully as a convention. You say, well, it's an anniversary, it's a reminder of the birth of the monastery, the efforts people put in to build it, clean it, bring all the things that are used here, feed the Sangha, feed each other, help each other. You know, many good things go on. So it's just a skillful recollection of that. It's not like you cling on to it. You just have it and then you let go and you move on. And you get used to it, don't you? You get used to seeing another anniversary comes round. The day comes. You note it, you enjoy it, partake of it, and then it moves on. Whether it's your birthday, anniversary of the monastery, Australia Day, any other kind of day. You learn to use the conventions of the world skillfully to help us learn how to let go. And that way we're really making use of a monastery. If everyone comes here and really learns to let go, but let go with mindfulness and wisdom, then that's the completion of the monastery, isn't it? It's a place for learning how to let go. And maybe I'll leave you with those thoughts tonight, and you're fully, it's fully appropriate for you to now let go of my talk.
อันตมยังวัฏพัทธาสาธุการ